call hello Yahweh Shemel Shah by Shemer Chakadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth, and much respect to the Yakim at their labor in his work, and also to the believers scattered across the four corners of the earth, the hopefully elect in the USA. Shalom. So yeah, there's going to be a lesson pretty much that's dealing with faith in a time of temptation. As written, the just shall live by faith. And we're about to head into the time of heavy temptation. All right, so much well we're going to have to strictly lean upon Yahweh Shemel Shah for protection. And so I just want to go into a story dealing with Daniel the prophet, who was a captive in Babylon. And you're going to find out how the Lord showed him mercy at the end of his tribulation. All right, as he was thrown into the lion den. Okay, so I want to start out right here. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the 2nd chapter, in verse 1, it says, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation." All right. Set thy heart aright, talking about your mind, and constantly endure. All right. Hold your integrity in the time of trouble, and make not haste in the time of trouble. Okay. So scroll on down. Verse 9 says, "Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good." All right. Hope for good, for the everlasting joy and mercy. It says, "Look at these generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?" Okay. Which leads me to the time of Daniel the prophet and the story of Bel the dragon. As I mentioned before, he was a captive in Babylon. And we're going to start at verse 1. And King Astyages was gathered to his father. So this previous king had died and went to his father's. And it says, "And Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. And Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all his friends. Now the Babylonians had an idol called Baal, and there were spent upon him every day 12 great measures of fine flour, and 40 sheep, and 6 vessels of wine." So this was a great feast. All right, that was given to this idol every day. Verse 4, "And the king worshipped it and went daily to adore it. But Daniel worshipped his own power, Yahweh Shemel Shah. And the king said unto him, Why dost now thou worship Baal? He answered and said, Because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living power, who have created the heaven and the earth, and have sovereignty over all flesh. Then said the king unto him, Thinkest thou not that Baal is a living power? Seest thou not how much he eateth and drinketh every day? Then Daniel smiled and said, O king, be not deceived, for this is but clay within and brass without, and did never eat or drink anything. So the king was wroth and called for his priests and said unto them, If ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die. But if you can certify me that Baal devoureth them, then Daniel shall die, for he has spoken blasphemy against Baal. And Daniel said unto the king, Let it be according to thy word." Okay. Now the priests of Baal were 70. All right. A score is 20. So 3 times 20 is 60, and 10 makes 70. The priests were 70. It goes and say, besides their wives and children. And the king went with Daniel into the temple of Baal. So Baal's priest said, Lo, we go out, but thou, O king, set on the meat, and make ready the wine, and shut the door, and fast it, and seal it with thine own signet. All right. So this feast was prepared again for this idol, and they were going to close the doors, and the king was going to seal it and come back and check on it. Matter of fact, verse 12, "And tomorrow when thou comest in, if thou findest not that Baal have eaten up all, we will suffer death, or else Daniel is speaking falsely against us." Okay. So it was 2 options. If Baal actually ate the food, then Daniel would be killed. But if he did not eat it, then those priests and those prophets would be killed. All right. Verse 13, "And they little regarded it, for under the table they had made a privy entrance, whereby they entered in continually and consumed those things." All right. So these priests who were working deceitfully, were going behind the king's back and eating the food that they were setting up, and then saying that Baal was the one that was eating the food. But all along, there was a private entrance whereby they entered in continually and consumed those things, as it said. Verse 14, so when they were gone forth, the king set meats before Baal. Now Daniel had commanded his servants to bring ashes, and those they showed throughout all the temple in the presence of the king alone. Then went they out and shut the door and sealed it with the king's signet, and so departed. Verse 15, now in the night came the priests with their wives and children. Okay, so after this thing was sealed up, that night the priests and their wives and children came in. All right. And it says, as they were wont to do, and did eat and drink up all. In the morning, bedtime, king arose, and Daniel with him. And the king said, Daniel, are the seals whole? And he said, yeah, O king, they be whole. And as soon as he had opened the door, the king looked upon the table and cried with a loud voice, great art thou, O Baal, and with thee is no deceit at all. Then laughed Daniel and held the king that he should not go in, and said, behold, now the pavement, look, he said, behold, now the pavement, and mark well whose footsteps are these. So Daniel saw the footsteps, within the pavement that, the priests and the children and their wives that come in and devour the food. All right. So verse 20, it says, and the king said, I see the footsteps of men, women, and children. And then the king was angry and took the priests with their wives and children, who showed him. All right. So they end up showing him the privy doors where they came in and consumed such things as were upon the table. Therefore the king slew them and delivered Baal into Daniel's power, who destroyed him and his temple. And in that same place there was a great dragon, all right, which they of Babylon worship. So there was an actual dragon right here. All right. So again, verse 23, and in that same place there was a great dragon which they of Babylon worship. And the king said unto Daniel, wilt thou also say that this is of brass? Lo, he liveth, he eateth and drinketh. Thou canst not say that he is no living God, therefore worship him. Then said Daniel unto the king, I will worship the Lord Yahweh my power, for he is the living power. But give me leave, O king, and I shall slay this dragon without sword or staff. The king said, I give thee leave. Then Daniel took pitch and fat and hair, all right, pitch, fat, and hair, and did seethe them together and made lumps thereof. So this is pretty much an explosive device, all right. Speaking about a dragon right here, it goes and say, this is he. It's like this he put in the dragon's mouth, and so the dragon burst asunder. And Daniel said, lo, these are the gods you worship. When they of Babylon heard that, they took great indignation and conspired against the king. All right. So when the inhabitants of Babylon heard about it, they was fed up with the shit. All right. And they went on to say, the king is become a Jew, and he have destroyed Baal. He have slain the dragon and put the priest to death. So they came to the king and said, deliver us Daniel, or else we will destroy thee and thine house. Now when the king saw that they pressed him sore, he constrained. He delivered Daniel unto them, who cast him into the lion's den, where he was 6 days. All right. So this king, being in fear, gave Daniel over unto those authorities, all right, or to the people of Babylon, and they cast him into the lion's den to be devoured. And he was in there for what? 6 days. All right. 32. And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every day 2 carcasses. So every day these lions were given 2 carcasses and 2 sheep, which then were not given to him. So the time that he was thrown into the den, they were given nothing. So again, which then were not given to them, to the intent they might devour Daniel. Now there was in jury a prophet called Habakkuk. All right, Habakkuk was in jury, who had made pottage and had broken bread in a bowl and was going into the field for to bring it to the reapers. So here's what a miracle is about to start taking place. All right. So he was in the lion's den, but he was not being devoured, even though they did not feed these lions. And right here, it says Habakkuk was in jury, and it says he had made pottage and had broken bread in a bowl and was going into the field for to bring it to the reapers. Verse 34. But the angel of the Lord said unto Habakkuk, Go, carry the dinner that thou hast into Babylon unto Daniel, who was in the lion's den. All right. And you can, these same acts are going to happen during this time. Once brothers are thrown into, these tight situations, you're going to have angels do these kind of acts, and it's going to go on to tell you what he did. Verse 35, and Habakkuk said, Lord, I never saw Babylon. So Habakkuk never been to Babylon. It says, neither do I know where the den is. It says, then the angel of the Lord took him by the crown. So he grabbed him by the head, and it goes and say, and bare him by his hair, or by the hair of his head, and through the vehemency of his spirit set him in Babylon over the den. So the angel grabbed Daniel, or grabbed Habakkuk, Salakia, with the food that he had, and he picked them up by the hair, and they vanished, and they end up in Babylon. Verse 37. When Habakkuk cried, saying, O Daniel, Daniel, take the dinner which the Most High have sent thee. And Daniel said, Thou hast remembered me, O power, O Yahweh. Neither hast thou forsaken them that seek thee and love thee. So Daniel was rewarded during this time because what? He kept his integrity. So by him doing it, he was not devoured by the lions. And we got to remember that same thing, that same sentiment as we head into the time of temptation, because we're going to be thrown into the lion's den. But who's in control? It's the Most High. He has power over all flesh. Okay. So it says, again, verse 38, and Daniel said, Thou hast remembered me, O Yahweh, and neither hast thou forsaken them that seek thee and love thee. You see? So Daniel arose and did eat, and the angel of the Lord set Habakkuk in his own place again immediately. Upon the seventh day, the king went to bewail Daniel, and when he came to the den, he looked in, and behold, Daniel was sitting. So he was in there chilling, with the 7 lions. 41. Then cried the king with a loud voice, saying, Great, great our Lord, power, Yahweh of Daniel, and there is none other besides thee. So he was totally convinced at that point. And he drew him out and cast those that were the cause of his destruction in the den. And look what happened. It says, and they were devoured in a moment before his face. You see? So the Lord is not going to forsake anyone who is holding their integrity, with Yahweh Bashim El Shai, because the Most High is the one that's in control of everything. All right. As it says up here in Daniel, or Salakia, in verse 5, Daniel said, because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living power who have created the heaven and the earth and have sovereignty over all flesh. So it's the Most High who was controlling those lions, all right, and the minds of those lions to be at peace with Daniel in the lion's den. He can do the same thing, with us, if we've been obedient and held our integrity while we're being put into situations, to try us, all right, the hour of temptation. And ultimately, the Lord can work out a favor for you because you held your integrity. And Daniel believed that, so he was rewarded. Okay. So yeah, I just want to go through that real quick. Lord willing, you'll edify. Until next time, I say, Shalom.